apologies.
You expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Disney, otherwise known as Walt's House, the House of Mouse, and many other nicknames people have given it throughout the years. If you're a cynical, I hate everything and nobody else can find joy in stuff kind of person, you may know this company as the dark, soulless machine ran solely on corporate greed. Not me, though. I love Disney. That's right, despite the skeletons in their corporate closet, I can't seem to detach myself from the feelings that Disney has made me feel as a kid, as well as an adult. For the past 100 years since its founding by brothers Walt and Roy Disney, the company has inspired the hopes and dreams of not just me, most other children that have lived for the past century. In this video, I'm going to take some time to celebrate the company and what it's done for the young imaginations around the world. Now, to talk about another dirty word in the film industry, let's talk about remakes. As usual, my opinion on remakes is drastically different from how I hear most people talk about them. I don't want to spend too much time on it, as I don't want this video to take too much of your time, and I honestly can make a whole video on remakes and my opinion on them. For now, all I will say is that where most people see a soulless cash grab by a corporation that cares nothing for its audience, I see the opportunity to tell a familiar story with a fresh take. I honestly don't mind a company rehashing something old for a newer audience. As I've always said, and will probably be saying for all eternity, there's more than one way to tell a story. That being said, I have really enjoyed the live-action remakes that Disney has been making, giving their classic tales a fresh coat of paint while also introducing them to the youth of today. If you're lucky, you might even get some fresh story beats or an all-new story altogether. Just really varies from movie to movie, so I thought I would rank and discuss each remake we've gotten so far. Remember, these are just the ramblings of some boomer on the interwebs, so please comment down below if you happen to disagree with me. Alright, let's rank some remakes. Number 10. There have been 3 of these live-action remakes made exclusively for Disney+, and this one is by far the weakest. The original Pinocchio is one of my favorites in the Disney animated catalog, and it was a shame this remake didn't hold up as well as the other ones. The main issue for me is just how Pinocchio looks in general. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's the eyes, man. I don't know what it is, but something tells me those eyes, they've seen death. Please don't kill me, Pinocchio. I don't know. It just sucks because I love the designs of characters such as Honest John, Gideon, I even like Jiminy, and I really like Monstro. Even if you can get past Pinocchio's uncanny valley-looking ass, you still have to come to terms with the fact that Tom Hanks puts on a well below subpar performance as Geppetto. Really breaks my heart to say that too, because he's always been the GOAT in this field. He's my favorite actor of all time, and I'd never seen a film of his I didn't like, until I saw this movie. Next, please. Number 9. As the first in what is now a long-running franchise under the Disney brand, The Jungle Book did a fantastic job of showing us what to expect out of most of these remakes at the bare minimum, with the exception of Pinocchio, as we've already seen. We have an amazing hand-selected ensemble cast, mind-blowing effects, and a fresh take on the classic tale in question. Needless to say, this film was one hell of a start to this now long-running franchise. The only reason this one ranks so low is because it doesn't do too much to shake up the Jungle Book formula, and the child actor that they have playing Mowgli was also a weak point in the experience for me.
It's a honey stash for winter.
Have you lost your mind?
You said you wouldn't get mad.
I know that probably sounds mean, but this is something Disney has improved over the years. Seriously, the kids they've put in these recent remakes have absolutely killed it. I also haven't kept up with this actor since, so it's very possible his acting has improved over the years. As it is here, however, it's a wee bit on the rough side compared to the talent this film has to offer. I also don't think they should have cut out the Beatles-inspired vultures from the original. Seriously, Disney, you really dropped the ball with that choice. That being said, this is a really fun film and most definitely worth your time. Number 8. My relationship with this film has been, rocky, to say the least. When I initially saw it in theaters, I didn't think I liked it all that much. Then, when I was rewatching these leading up to the release of The Little Mermaid, I actually enjoyed my experience. Not only that, but I was rediscovering things that I loved about this version that seemed to be overshadowed by the things I found myself super underwhelmed by. It's not a bad movie, but there's just not enough there to launch this one into the same greatness as the animated original. It's a fun watch, but you won't get anything you can't see in the animated one, which is why I can't put it any higher than this spot right here. Number 7. Now that we talked about the film that has absolutely nothing new to say, here's one that had everything new to say. Tim Burton's take on the tale about the elephant who learned how to fly, as controversial as this might sound, makes for a much better movie than its 1941 counterpart. Mind you, this is coming from someone who grew up with and loves the original. It takes a wholly original story and threw in some small callbacks that'll make you go, hey, that's a cool nod to the original.
Casey Jr. comes down the track with the clicky-clack and a
Seriously, if it wasn't for the fact that I prefer the old and the new meshing together a little bit more, this would probably be higher up. As it is, though, there's just not enough of the original here for this to really qualify as a remake, so I can't put it any higher than this. Number 6. I'm actually upset that this came out in the heat of the pandemic, making it really difficult to catch on release. What I'm really mad about, though, is how long it took me to finally get around to watching this. This was one of the few that was a first-time viewing for me leading up to The Little Mermaid, and I really enjoyed the experience. I feel like I remember people preemptively hating this film because of it being some big departure from the original. Frankly, though, I don't get it. Except for the exclusion of Mushu in the songs, this is pretty much the same film, with a couple story beats slightly changed here and there. Honestly, without Mushu and those songs, it felt just fresh and unique enough to keep me engaged the whole way through. This movie was definitely slept on for sure, and I think when it was released has a lot to do with that. If you have Disney Plus, watch it right now. Number 5. This film actually surprised the hell out of me. I was genuinely not expecting a whole lot from a Disney Plus live-action remake coming out literally 11 days before The Little Mermaid, but I'm willing to admit I was wrong. This film is probably the best live-action Peter Pan adaptation I've ever seen. Granted, this is only one of 2 live-action Peter Pan adaptations I've actually seen, but my point still stands. I absolutely love what this film did to expand the story with the additions to Pan and Hook's backstory. I don't want to say too much as I'm trying to avoid spoilers. Just know they're connected way more here than the animated movie alludes to. The effects weren't bad either, considering its Disney Plus original status, especially when compared to Pinocchio. It's definitely worth your time. You should check it out. Number 4. I'll be honest, before this movie came out, my only exposure to Emma Watson was Harry Potter. And it's mainly because of my fiancé that I was finally introduced to gems like Perks of Being a Wallflower in recent years. However, back in 2017, I only knew her as Hermione Granger. It caught me completely by surprise on release when I'm introduced to not Hermione, but Belle herself, belting out the opening lines of Bonjour, hardly missing a beat. Money was no issue when looking at the rest of the cast either. Having cinematic icons such as Sir Ian McKellen, Ewan McGregor, and Emma Thompson will make this film a classic for ages to come. Much like Peter Pan and Wendy, this film aims to add more to the story of the original in terms of backstory. This time, we get more insight on Maurice and Belle's life and what circumstances led them to moving to their small judgmental village. This is probably going to be a controversial statement, but I'm going on a limb here. This is probably one of the few instances I would recommend watching the live-action one over the animated. Don't get me wrong, watch both. However, if someone came up to me and said, if I only watched one, which would it be, I would tell them the live-action without hesitation. So yeah, that's on the internet forever. Number 3. Look, I'm not ashamed to admit that I was part of the 0.037% of the world that was kind of sitting on the edge of their seat waiting for this thing to come out. I'm not sure what the overall consensus for the original Lady and the Tramp is, but it's easily in my top 10. As you can probably tell by where it's ranked compared to the others, it didn't disappoint. This is one of those situations where you're not really getting anything new with this one. It's pretty much the same story beat for beat as the original. However, the talent and overall look of this film gives it a point over all of that. The amount of detail and care put into these sets is mind-blowing, especially considering the special effects look pretty good as well. That's right, despite being the first live-action remake released exclusively for Disney+, it genuinely looks like the dogs are moving their mouths when they talk. None of that uncanny valley like in Pinocchio. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm sticking to that one point, but it's just one of those things that sticks with you. How could you do this to my boy? Number 2. I was probably destined to love this movie. It had pretty much everything going for it when looking at my personal preferences. It's a live-action remake of my all-time favorite film in the Disney Renaissance catalog, using music that was composed by the same guy that did the music for the original, and with a cast that includes the internet's favorite living meme.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth!
Oops, sorry, wrong clip.
It's rewind time.
That's better. This is a near perfect example of Disney faithfully reimagined, as far as I'm concerned. I also really like how they put more emphasis on Jasmine's character than in the original. Though it's not something I typically look for in a film, her empowerment arc is probably one of the best I've seen. It's something that I've always felt was always part of Jasmine's character, but wasn't pushed far enough in the original film. And although Will Smith replacing Robin Williams as Genie was a very controversial one that most definitely alienated some audience members, I think it's high time that we start to normalize the simple fact that more than one actor can play a character. In some instances, it can create a fun, different interpretation that we've never seen before. This is definitely one of those instances. Do I prefer Robin in the role? Of course, but Will brings his own brand of cool to this role, and it really works. Number 1. If you saw my short review for this movie, then you won't be the slightest bit surprised by its placement on this list. The most recent remake in the live-action Disney roster takes us back under the sea with Ariel and friends in a very fresh, but very familiar retelling of the classic 1989 animated feature. The overall effects and look of the undersea areas were breathtaking to say the least. They really brought in the A-Team to recreate a familiar vibe to the original as well. With a stellar cast to bring the original songs to life, it was an absolute slam dunk in my opinion. There was even a whole original song specifically for Prince Eric, who really does feel like more of a character than he does in the original. The only real downside to this film was Hailey Bailey's subpar acting. It was decent overall, but felt very wooden in some instances. I just feel like with the prestige that a name like Disney represents, there would be more quality control in that department. At least she doesn't have to talk for most of the film. Honestly, those scenes and those musical numbers are where she really shined. You can definitely tell she's more of a singer than an actress. Her underwhelming performance, however, are overshadowed by how amazing the rest of the cast is. Daveed Diggs and Javier Bardem being standouts, but the spotlight was 100% stolen by comedy veteran Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Definitely a role she was born to play. Of all the remakes to come out this far, this one is the best and definitely worth your time. And that's my ranking for the Disney live-action remakes. As what seems to be part of my brand here on YouTube, I feel like this video may have had a couple of hot takes here and there. I don't know. I understand that remakes aren't everyone's cup of tea, but there's a certain stigma attached to them that I will never understand. That, however, is a topic for another video. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to like and subscribe, and while you're at it, leave your ranking down in the comments below. Or if you'd like to tell me how I'm wrong and an idiot, that's fine too. Sorry for how long it took for this video to come out. My main goal with the channel is to average a video every month. This year, however, has been really hectic with work and planning a wedding. I've been putting out the short reviews for brand new movies, and those will continue as they've become a big part of my content here. However, I promise you that you will see more long-form content on the channel as well. I'm really excited to see where I can take this channel, and I hope you'll join me. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, Cinephiles, don't stop believing.